Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 391, At Least I Didn't Get 6-0D by Dylan. Rippling waves of pink energy spread across the battlefield. This was Hyper Voice, transformed by Pixelate into a fairy-type move. The Wave S. Rippling waves of pink energy spread across the battlefield. This was Hyper Voice, transformed by Pixelate into a fairy-type move. The wave swept toward Dylan's shiny Gardevoir, who didn't even flinch. She just stood there as the sound passed over her, brow barely twitching. That was it, just a twitch. Mega Gardevoir's special defense was high, but in terms of raw power, the difference between them was clear. Even her Pixelate-boosted Hyper Voice barely scratched the shiny Gardevoir. And seeing that, Diantha's last bit of hope died. Shiny Gardevoir slowly raised her hand. Her counterpart's body, completely under her control, began to rise into the air. Then, with a flick, boom! Mega Gardevoir was hurled down like a missile, crashing into the ground hard enough to shake the battlefield. Dust flew everywhere. When it finally settled, everyone could see her lying in a small crater. The Mega Evolution glow flickered and vanished. Gardevoir had fainted. Gardevoir is unable to battle. Shiny Mega Gardevoir wins. Leaf officially announced the result. Diantha stared blankly at her fallen partner, dazed. This was her strongest Pokémon. The one who had been with her through everything, the most reliable ace on her team. And now, she looked up at the black-dressed Mega Gardevoir and the man in black behind her. A bitter smile crept across her lips. She understood now. There wasn't much else to say. Dylan's shiny Gardevoir swiftly defeated the last two remaining Pokémon, Tyrant Rum and Gourgeist, as effortlessly as snapping twigs. Gourgeist is unable to battle. Diantha has no remaining Pokémon. The Rota Gym Challenge has ended in failure. Leaf announced the final result. Only then did the bystanders finally realize this wasn't a friendly match. This had been a gym challenge. And the challenger? Former Kalos champion Diantha. Who lost. What the hell? That was brutal. Champion Dylan only used 3 Pokémon? That's insane. Honestly, I doubt even Diantha's Mega Gardevoir could have taken out that Grimmsnarl. Maybe not. She did go for taunt, and if that worked, she might have had a shot. Doesn't matter. That shiny Gardevoir was on another level. Way stronger than Diantha's. The match had ended, but the crowd was buzzing louder than ever. It was too shocking. Diantha, former champion, had been treated like some random youngster in shorts. She didn't even hear the chatter. Still slightly out of it, she silently recalled her Gardevoir to its ball. It was the worst loss she'd ever experienced as a trainer. Ever. That was a great match, Miss Diantha. Dylan walked up with a smile, offering a hand. I wouldn't call it great, Champion Dylan. Diantha shook her head, voice heavy. She had believed the gap between herself and champions from other regions wouldn't be that wide. But today, reality slapped her across the face. No wonder people said Hoenn's champion Wallace was forced into retirement by Dylan. She had thought that was just a rumor. But now, she could believe it. If she had still been champion, a loss like this might have shattered her confidence entirely. She might have even quit, just like Wallace. Thankfully, she wasn't the first. Wallace and Leon had gone through this before her. That helped, a little. I still think you're very strong. My battle style can be hard to adapt to at first. Dylan offered some reassurance. Hopefully he hadn't hit her too hard. He didn't want to crush her spirit completely. After all, in the games, Diantha had great mental resilience. Even after losing to the protagonist, she'd cheerfully praise the experience. Someone like that wouldn't crumble over one bad defeat. There are too many people here. Champion Dylan, shall we go somewhere more private to talk? Diantha composed herself and glanced at the crowd. Sure. Soon after, she contacted Serena and arranged for transportation to her private villa. Once there, she welcomed everyone inside and gestured for them to sit. Champion Dylan, allow me to introduce Serena, the new champion of Kalos. A very talented younger colleague. Hello, Champion Dylan. I'm Serena. Serena greeted him with confidence and elegance. Hello, Champion Serena. Dylan returned her handshake with a warm smile. She looked exactly like he remembered: black fitted t-shirt, high-waisted pleated skirt, thigh-high socks. Slender waist, perfect posture. An absolute waist goddess, as some might say. I heard you only began your journey this year and already became champion. That's incredible. You flatter me. I still have a long way to go if I hope to reach your level. Serena responded with a serious expression. She had watched Dylan's battle against Diantha, and knew firsthand just how terrifying this so-called strongest Kanto champion really was. Sure, she had beaten Diantha in their champion match, but it had been a struggle. Seeing Dylan dismantle Diantha with such ease, she wasn't arrogant enough to think she'd fare any better. She was clearly someone who took strength seriously. Dylan nodded. This was just how Serena was in the games too. Always laser-focused on becoming stronger. You're already impressive, Champion Serena. Very few people debut and reach the top so quickly. Speaking of prodigies, Diantha looked thoughtful. I've heard that Kanto's current Elite Four, aside from Giovanni, were all rookies last year? She glanced at Leaf. Like Miss Leaf, the new blue elite. Even Diantha had kept tabs on that. Ever since the league system began, a full Elite Four turnover like Kanto's had never happened. All the previous Kanto elites retired and were replaced, and 3 of them were brand new trainers. Just like Serena, newcomers who became elites in a single year. Though not quite at Serena's champion level, it was still impressive. That's right. But Leaf and the others are very strong, Lily piped up proudly. Leaf blinked, slightly embarrassed as she sipped her tea. How strong could they be, really? Diantha and Serena exchanged glances, silently curious. Could Kanto's elites really compare to Kalos's? Red, Blue, and Leaf all earned their Rota badges from me, Dylan said, smiling. Then he paused. Should he just say it? Red, when he challenged me, defeated 3 of my main fire types. What? Diantha froze, eyes widening. Wait, what? She had only managed to take down 1 of Dylan's fairy types. And this Kanto elite, Red, had beaten 3 of Dylan's fire type mains last year? Was this for real? That strong? Serena was shocked too. Neither of them were fools, they knew Dylan was being tactful. Which meant, this Red wasn't just strong, he might actually be stronger than Diantha. Maybe by a lot. Don't underestimate our Kanto elites. Eileen giggled, full of regional pride. Leaf is already at champion level herself. Diantha turned slowly toward Leaf, who sat with such ladylike grace. And suddenly felt her mouth go dry. The last seat of the Kanto Elite Four is champion level? Compared to Kalos's elites. She fell silent. By the way, Miss Diantha, Dylan suddenly remembered, I have something for you. He handed her a small velvet box, smoothly changing the subject. This is... Diantha opened it and her eyes lit up. Inside was a beautiful pink badge, shaped like an ornate butterfly bow. Elegant and flawless, like a gemstone. Actually, she realized, it was a gemstone delicately carved. This is the fairy-type Rota badge. Miss Diantha, though you didn't win, I believe you've earned this. Dylan smiled warmly. This is too much, isn't it? Diantha hesitated. To be honest, she had lost badly. She had a strong feeling that this battle would explode online. No doubt, comparisons would be drawn between her and Wallace. A full 6-on-6 battle, and she only managed to defeat one of Dylan's Pokémon. And even then, both Grimmsnarl and Shiny Gardevoir had been practically untouched. It was a beatdown. But her opponent was Dylan. Even Galar's undefeated champion Leon had been 6-0-D. I still respect your strength, Miss Diantha. And I look forward to our next match. Then I'll accept it as a challenger. Diantha's smile twitched. Another match? No, she needed time. Time to mentally recover. That gym had traumatized her. But she still pinned the Rota badge onto her bag. I heard there are very few people who have earned a Rota badge. She turned it in her hands, admiring the intricate detail. In Serena's jealous gaze, she carefully attached it to her bag. Yup. Very few, Lily beamed. Maybe during the World Championships, you'll even run into a few other badge holders, Dylan teased. Oh? Diantha's eyes sparkled at the mention of the World Championships. Since she was no longer Kalos champion, she wouldn't be ranked in the initial top 8. But top 20? That was doable. And if Kanto's elites were aiming to climb, they'd have to fight her for it. Well then, I'd like to see for myself this red from Kanto you speak of. Let's see if he really can beat 3 of your mains. Chapter 392, The Mischief Pokemon. Diantha still wasn't fully convinced. Sure, she admitted she'd only taken down one of Dylan's main Pokemon. But there were differences even. Diantha still wasn't fully convinced. Sure, she admitted she'd only taken down one of Dylan's main Pokemon. But there were differences even among type specialist teams. Fire versus Fairy, okay, maybe not much of a difference there, it all depended on the trainer and how well the team was built. Still, she had once been the champion of Kalos. She couldn't possibly be weaker than an Elite Four member from another region, right? She'd just have to wait until the World Championships started. She'd be ready when Red came for her. She believed in herself. Oh? Then I hope you'll be watching closely, Miss Diantha. Dylan smiled meaningfully. He, too, was looking forward to Red, Giovanni, Blue, and the others clashing with champions from across the world. It was bound to be interesting. Of course, Diantha replied with confidence. Then she seemed to remember something and pulled a folder from her bag. Right, Champion Dylan, I also found that information on Desert City you were looking for. She handed him the file. Before coming to Kalos, Dylan had reached out to Diantha through the league, asking for help with some research. Connections truly did make things easier. Though Diantha was no longer the reigning champion, she was still deeply rooted in Kalos and had an extensive network. Thank you, Miss Diantha. It was nothing. According to what I found, about 100 years ago, Desert City was just a remote and impoverished village. Diantha took a graceful sip of tea as she summarized. Then a certain Pokemon arrived. It brought great fortune to the town, and thanks to that wealth, the town rapidly developed into a city. But not long after, that same Pokemon suddenly went berserk and caused massive destruction. A traveling hero happened to pass by and put an end to the disaster. Nowadays, the city's development is still going quite well. As Diantha explained, Dylan flipped through the file, scanning it quickly before tucking it away. This is very helpful. I appreciate it. You're welcome. Are you interested in the Pokemon from that legend? Diantha was curious. She had looked into it herself and found that the identity of the Pokemon was still unknown, likely a legendary Pokemon. And as everyone knew, Dylan was the most famous legendary trainer in the world. After all, the Golden Legends team was no joke. Strictly speaking, Leon had been completely crushed by that team. Aside from Dylan's lead Garchomp, the rest of his lineup consisted entirely of legendary dragons, which made it hard to judge Leon's actual strength. Diantha pondered. Was she stronger than Leon? Hard to say. It's true, I'm here in Kalos to explore those very legends. Dylan nodded. What he really wanted was to find and meet Kalos's mythical Pokemon. Like the princess of the Diamond Domain, Diancie. But that was the thing about legendary Pokemon, the hardest part wasn't capturing them, it was meeting them. Most people never even had the chance. Then I wish you good fortune, Champion Dylan. Diantha kept her composure. She wasn't offended that he was after Kalos's legendaries. As far as she was concerned, legendary Pokemon belonged to whoever was capable of reaching them. Besides, she knew a few things. One of Kalos's so-called legends was said to be extremely dangerous, the bringer of life's end. If Dylan could take that one away, she wouldn't mind at all. After chatting a while longer with Diantha and Serena, Dylan and his group said their goodbyes. Kanto really did produce a monster, Diantha murmured as she escorted them to the door, watching their figures disappear. Serena, aren't you going to challenge Mr. Dylan? She glanced at Serena with a teasing smile. She knew the girl well. Despite her grace, Serena was fiercely competitive and valued strength above all. I'm not strong enough to face him right now, Serena shook her head. I still need more training. The top 8 for the World Championships won't be set until the end of the year. There's time. The wind caught Serena's hair as she gazed skyward, eyes clear and firm. The first stages of the tournament were all about accumulating rank through battles. By year's end, the top 8 would compete in the Masters 8. Ah, I'm sure you'll earn one of those spots, Serena. Diantha smiled confidently. Serena was the most gifted prodigy she'd ever mentored. In just a year of travel, she'd climbed this far. And Serena hadn't even reached her ceiling, she was still growing rapidly. I'll have to work harder too. I can't let Kalos down. Diantha fiddled with the pink Rota badge in her hands. Despite her elegant demeanor, a stubborn glint flashed in her eyes. Sure, new waves overtook the old, but she wasn't ready to wash up just yet. She wasn't some elderly relic, maybe not 17 like Serena, but she was still young. And strong. The World Championships were approaching. The whole world would be watching. She might not be the current champion, but she still represented Kalos. Desert City. Just hearing the name, you'd expect it, a city built in the heart of a vast desert. Despite its location, the city was thriving. Towering skyscrapers dominated part of the skyline, showcasing modern infrastructure. But elsewhere, there were clusters of white stone cube houses, giving it a distinct desert charm. According to the map, Dylan and his group had just arrived, courtesy of Reshiram. This is amazing. They built all this right in the desert? Lily gawked, admiring the cityscape. Pretty incredible, Dylan agreed, eyeing the skyline with a whistle. Indeed, this was the very city where Hoopa and the Clash of Ages had taken place. It was a legendary location, literally. In that movie, the sealed power of Hoopa developed its own will and resentment, summoning 6 legendary Pokemon and warping their minds. And let's not forget the summon Latias, Latios, and shiny Rayquaza from Hoopa Confined. It was a full-on clash of legends, a first in Pokemon anime history. Although all they really managed to do was freeze a river. Not a single building collapsed. Rather tame, in hindsight. The only serious damage came from the spatial distortions caused by their arrival. But hey, it was a kids' show. What do you expect? Let's find a hotel and rest for a bit. Dylan smiled at the girls. After a day of flying, they deserved it. But just then, Reshiram's body tensed. Its snowy white fur bristled as it spun towards something in the distance. Reshiram? What's wrong? Dylan was just about to return it to its ball when he noticed its sudden change. Dylan, no. That thing's here. Reshiram's psychic voice trembled with rare gravity. That thing? Dylan blinked, but soon he understood. Wah! It's really you, Reshiram. A childish voice rang out, full of joy. It reached both Dylan and Reshiram's ears. And Reshiram's expression darkened. A small, pink and gray Pokemon floated toward them, eyes sparkling as it zoomed toward Reshiram. Don't you come any closer. Flames flared violently around Reshiram as it glared at the little Pokemon, radiating extreme caution.
Hoopa confined. Dylan's eyes lit up in recognition. It was none other than the mythical mischief maker, Hoopa in confined form. Eh?
Hoopa skidded to a stop mid-air, barely avoiding Reshiram's flames.
Why, Reshiram? You're so mean. I thought we were old friends. Hoopa pouted, looking genuinely hurt.
It had sensed Reshiram's presence and rushed over to say hello.
Only to be met with this hostility. Reshiram stared, utterly baffled. That aura, it was Hoopa, no doubt.
It could never forget the deep, malicious energy of 100 years ago.
But now, it looked and felt entirely different.
The once terrifying force of nature now seemed harmless.
Like it could be roasted with one breath. In just a century, how had it changed so much? Well, whatever. Reshiram didn't care. I'm not your friend. I don't know you.
With a huff, it vanished into its pokeball. It had nothing more to say to this lunatic.
Even if Hoopa now seemed innocent, Reshiram wanted no part of it. That's so mean, Hoopa muttered, eyes misty. Seems like Reshiram doesn't think too highly of you, Hoopa. Dylan pocketed the pokeball, smiling faintly at the miserable little Pokemon. This wasn't an act. Hoopa's childlike sorrow was completely genuine.
After all, this was no longer the fearsome Djinn of legend.
With its powers sealed, Hoopa's nature had regressed. It truly acted like a little kid. You know me? Hoopa blinked, then quickly lit up. Wow! You caught Reshiram? So cool, wait.
It floated closer, circling Dylan curiously. Then, it sniffed the air, nose twitching.
Whoa! Kiram, Rayquaza, Calyrex, even Mew? Who are you? Hoopa was stunned. It recognized those scents. It knew these legends. You've got quite the nose. Dylan raised a brow. Hee, I used to play with them all the time. Hoopa was super strong back then.
Hoopa giggled proudly, striking a heroic pose. The girls watched with interest.
Hoopa's strange appearance had already caught their attention.
Its body was mostly gray with pink accents, a pink tuft on its head, curved golden horns with rings, no legs, and a tail like wisp below.
Beep Hoopa, confined form, psychic/ghost type. The mischief Pokemon. Ability, Magician.
Moves, Hyperspace Hole, Psychic, Trick, Shadow Ball, Trick Room, Phantom Force. Description: a troublemaker who uses its rings to toss everything far away by warping space.
Rotom's Pokédex entry popped up cheerfully. I'm in there? Where'd you get that? Hoopa flew up to the Pokédex, puzzled.
Ever since its powers were sealed, it had stayed in the Valley of Creation, rarely appearing publicly.
It didn't expect to be catalogued. And honestly, sure, it remembered those moves, but in this form, it wasn't even sure it could beat a Pikachu anymore. In short, Hoopa was a mythical Pokemon in name only. In practice? Completely useless.
All it had left was its ability to float and use its signature rings.
Dylan gave me all that info, Rotom chirped proudly. Hoopa, what are you doing here? Dylan sidestepped the question.
Ever since its rampage a century ago, Hoopa had lived in the Valley of Creation under the care of Gris. After Gris passed away, his successors, Murray and Baraz, had become Hoopa's guardians. They were like family to one another, and Hoopa held deep affection for them.
Oh, I came here with Murray.
We were out shopping for supplies.
Oh no, Murray. Hoopa froze, realizing it had gotten distracted. Oh. Chapter 393, Can you summon Yveltal? Hoopa suddenly remembered Murray and nervously bit its finger, trying to think. It had sensed Reshiram's aura and rushed over without even TE. Hoopa suddenly remembered Murray and nervously bit its finger, trying to think. It had sensed Reshiram's aura and rushed over without even telling Murray where it was going. All it wanted was to catch up with its old friend. Wait, oh no! I have to run. Hoopa!
Suddenly, an exasperated voice growled behind Hoopa.
Hoopa froze in midair.
Without even turning around, it tried to bolt. But a hand shot out and grabbed the golden ring on Hoopa's belly, yanking it backward.
Wah! Wah what?
You little rascal, running off like that. Did you forget what I said before we left?
Moray is scary. Oh, so now I'm scary? You made me run all over the place, and now you want to play dumb?
The black-haired girl named Moray twitched at the corner of her mouth. Then she flipped Hoopa upside down and leaned in close with a sinister smile.
Looks like someone needs a little punishment. Ah! Help! Rishiram's trainer, save me!
Hoopa stretched out its tiny arms toward Dylan, begging for help.
Only then did Moray notice Dylan and the others, and realized they weren't just random bystanders. I can't help you with that, Hoopa. Naughty kids have to be disciplined, Dylan said with a warm smile, looking toward Moray.
The boy's clean, gentle smile startled Moray for a moment.
First impressions matter, and his looks certainly made an impact.
Hello, I'm Moray, she said, tossing Hoopa aside and giving a slight bow to the group. I'm Dylan, he replied, then took the time to introduce Lily, Leaf, and Eileen one by one.
I'm Hoopa. Dylan.
Hoopa quickly floated back over, blinking its big eyes and speaking in a lively, adorable voice.
And yes, it wasn't telepathy. Hoopa actually spoke human language. It's Dylan, Hoopa.
I know who you are, Dylan corrected gently.
Ha? Mr. Dylan, you know Hoopa?
Moray looked surprised. She had brought Hoopa with her on many trips into Desert City, but no one had ever recognized it before.
I do. Look, the Pokédex even has my data. Hoopa chirped proudly before Dylan could reply. Really?
Yes, I'm familiar with Hoopa's past, Dylan said with a smile.
You know what Hoopa did before?
Moray's interest was piqued. Hoopa had been with her since she and her brother Baraz were children.
To her, Hoopa wasn't just a companion, it was family.
Even though Ash had shared many adventures with Hoopa in the movie, it was clear that Moray and Baraz were the ones Hoopa loved most. That was why, when it used its most treasured memories to touch the heart of its dark self, they were all moments shared with Moray and her brother. Knowing that bond, Moray and Baraz had wanted to return Hoopa's sealed power, but no one expected that sealed power to form its own consciousness and resentment.
Of course. Let's sit over there for a bit. Dylan gestured to a shaded pavilion nearby. Once seated, Dylan pulled out some donuts, which Hoopa took happily. With its big eyes squinting in joy, it nibbled contentedly. Hoopa is so cute. Both Lily and Leaf sparkled with joy. The mischievous little guy was just too adorable. Hoopa is also super strong. Hoopa proudly placed its hands on its hips, grinning. Really? So how do you compare to Reshiram? Leaf asked slyly, tilting her head. Reshiram? Not a match. Hoopa could beat 3 of it at once.
Hoopa pouted, clearly still bitter about Rishiram's chilly attitude earlier.
Seriously? Leaf asked, raising an eyebrow. It's true. Hoopa used to be super strong. Hoopa puffed up its little chest.
Leaf and Lily both looked at Dylan.
They knew he'd know whether it was true or not. Well, Hoopa really did cause a major incident long ago.
Just how strong it was, I'm not entirely sure.
Moray's eyes sparkled. From what she and Baraz knew, Hoopa had been brought to the Valley of Creation by their great-grandfather, Gris, after wreaking havoc. Gris had sealed Hoopa's power as punishment. Hoopa's power was definitely immense. Dylan gently pinched Hoopa's cheek as he explained.
100 years ago, Desert City was just a poor, remote town.
Hoopa arrived in its unbound form.
It took some of the villagers' food and repaid them with vast wealth.
Thanks to Hoopa's generosity, the town flourished, and the people adored Hoopa.
Hearing this, Hoopa puffed up its chest with pride.
Life improved, and people began to seek entertainment. Eventually, they asked Hoopa to show its power by battling other Pokemon. Being the show-off it was, Hoopa agreed. It defeated many powerful Pokemon, and the more it fought, the more it got carried away. Using its dimensional rings, Hoopa began summoning legendary Pokemon and defeating them. Just to prove how strong it was. Dylan scratched Hoopa's chin fondly. That was Hoopa in a nutshell, immensely powerful, but obsessed with attention and admiration. That desire for recognition defined both Hoopa Confined and Unbound. Reshiram, Zekrom, Regigigas, Kyogre, Groudon. Hoopa beat all of them. And it wasn't even 1v1.
But all that fighting brought destruction to the town. That was the disaster Hoopa caused. Eventually, a traveler named Gris confronted Hoopa and sealed away its powers. Dylan told the story calmly. Hoopa scratched its head sheepishly, not exactly regretful, but clearly a little embarrassed after 100 years of reflection.
You were really that strong, huh?
Leaf stared in awe at the small Pokemon before her.
Hee, Hoopa is amazing. Hoopa grinned from ear to ear. But something's bothering me. If Hoopa was that strong, how could a human seal it? Eileen asked curiously. It's not so strange.
Gris was a follower of Arceus, the creator. He may have actually received Arceus's blessing.
Dylan shook his head. In the Pokemon world, humans could wield many kinds of power.
But the strongest of them all likely came from the lineage of the Valley of Creation, those who worshipped Arceus. The movie never explained Gris's origins, but the valley housed a statue of Arceus. That made their faith clear.
Arceus.
The girls blinked.
They'd never heard of that one. But clearly, it was an immensely powerful Pokemon. Miss Murray, you're aware of this, aren't you?
Yes.
My family has always worshipped Arceus. Gris was my great-grandfather, but Mr. Dylan, how do you know all this?
Murray stared at him in astonishment.
I like to study regional legends and histories. Just a hobby. I see.
You're very knowledgeable, she said, still confused but choosing not to press further.
Then is there really no way for Hoopa to return to its original form? Lily asked curiously. Nope. My power's all sealed. I need to get it back first. Hoopa's voice dropped as it pouted. Gris said I had to understand the meaning of punishment. But I still don't get it.
It scratched its head in frustration. The concept of atonement was beyond its mischievous mind. Still, after 100 years in the valley, Hoopa had grown used to life without power.
Great-grandfather did it for your own good. You were out of control. Murray sighed and ruffled Hoopa's head affectionately. Hoopa crossed its arms and looked away. Honestly, I think Hoopa's matured a lot. Even if it got its powers back, I doubt it'd go wild again. Dylan smiled. If the Shadow Hoopa didn't interfere, Hoopa Confined would never lose control again, not with Murray and Baraz by its side. True. My brother and I have been considering it. But we'll need time to locate the prison bottle.
Murray gently patted Hoopa's belly, looking down at it with soft eyes.
Really? You mean it? Hoopa's eyes lit up. Of course. Yay! Murray is the best. Hoopa twirled happily in the air. Dylan smiled at the heartwarming scene. After chatting a bit more, the group went their separate ways. Dylan had come to Desert City specifically to learn more about the Valley of Creation and find Hoopa. He hadn't expected to meet it so soon, let alone with Murray. It was a pleasant surprise. But not the right time yet. After checking into a hotel and dropping off their luggage, Dylan and the others set out to explore the exotic desert city. But they hadn't gone far when Hoopa drifted lazily toward them. Dylon. It's Dylan. What is it, Hoopa? Where's Murray? She went shopping by herself. I got bored, so I came to find you. Hoopa didn't have many friends.
Aside from Murray and Baraz, it didn't get along with most others.
But it liked Dylan.
Mainly because of the familiar old friend auras clinging to him.
You want something fun to do? Yeah. I have an idea, but Hoopa, can you still summon legendary Pokemon? Of course. But I only have 3 rings now, so I can only summon 3. And I don't have my power, so if they're not happy about being summoned, I'm in big trouble. Hoopa looked troubled. Its rings still worked, just not as well. The forceful summoning could anger the legendaries. And nowadays, Hoopa didn't have the strength to handle their wrath. Then, can you summon Yveltal? A smile slowly curved across Dylan's face. I can, but right now Yveltal is just an egg, you know. Why do you want that angry bird? Hoopa blinked, puzzled. It knew all about Yveltal, Kalos's deathly legend. And Yveltal's temper is the worst. If you wake it up, it'll go berserk. I hate grumpy Pokemon like that. Even Hoopa thought Yveltal was a pain. Chapter 394, I'm Unstoppable. Yveltal. One of the legendary Pokemon of the Kalos region. Legends say that when Yveltal spreads its wings and tail feathers, glowing red, it. Yveltal, one of the legendary Pokemon of the Kalos region. Legends say that when Yveltal spreads its wings and tail feathers, glowing red, it drains the life force of living beings. In every myth and written account, Yveltal is never depicted positively. And that's no surprise. Kalos has 3 legendary Aura Pokemon. If Xerneas can be seen as representing lawful good, and Zygarde is true neutral, then Yveltal absolutely embodies chaotic evil. To Yveltal, there is no good or evil. If something enters its sight, it becomes a target. The god of morning rage is no exaggeration. When it awakens, Yveltal attacks all surrounding life indiscriminately, no matter who or what they are. Back in the day, Hoopa wouldn't have feared Yveltal in the slightest. After all, its own power outmatched Yveltal's, and if that bird dared to attack, Hoopa could easily suppress it. But now, things were different. It's fine. As long as you can summon Yveltal, that's all I need, Dylan said, his eyes glinting, the corners of his lips curling upward. Right now? Dylan, I can bring Yveltal over right this second. Hoopa's earlier hesitation vanished in an instant. It was already excitedly preparing to act. It trusted Dylan. Yveltal might be strong, but Dylan would definitely handle it. And besides, Hoopa really wanted to see that grumpy bird get smacked around. Not just yet. Let's make some preparations first. Dylan patted Hoopa's head and pulled out his phone, typing quickly. What are you doing? Leaf leaned over curiously as Dylan sent a message. Letting a certain someone know. He's probably been after this for a long time, Dylan replied casually. All right, Hoopa. Let's find a good spot. The desert surrounding Desert City was vast and empty, so finding a secluded area was easy. Before long, the group rode Reshiram to a desolate canyon. Judging from the terrain, this was once an oasis, but now it had long dried up. Here should do nicely. Dylan looked around and nodded in approval. Go ahead, Hoopa. Leave it to me. Hoopa removed one of the golden rings from its horn and spun it around, then tossed it. Hoopa catch. As Hoopa rotated its arms, the space ring flew deep into the canyon, landing in a dry cavern. The ring rapidly expanded, space at its center twisting and warping. A large black cocoon slowly emerged from the ring and dropped into the hollow. That's Yveltal? Lily stared curiously at the black cocoon from afar. Yes, that's what it looks like when it's dormant. Hoopa retrieved the ring and placed it back on its horn. The cocoon of destruction. That's Yveltal's sleeping form. But if anyone gets close, it senses life energy and wakes up. Dylan explained further. That was exactly why they kept their distance for now. He had no intention of waking Yveltal just yet. So Hoopa really can summon legendary Pokemon at will? That's incredible, Eileen said, astonished, gazing at the small figure floating beside them. He surprised? Hoopa's amazing. Hoopa giggled proudly, hands on hips. My rings are the best. Not any worse than Palkia's space powers. If it hadn't been for its sealed powers, Hoopa would have pulled Palkia over just to prove its point. A mere space dragon? Hoopa could be the true master of space. Wow, that's amazing. Lily clapped with a bright smile. They could all tell Hoopa had the heart of a child. It loved being praised, and more than anything, it adored being in the spotlight. Dylan, is it safe to leave the cocoon here? And what exactly are you planning? Leaf asked. Do you remember Lysandra? He's been searching for Yveltal. Dylan shook his phone with a grin. I've already contacted Miss Diantha and asked her to leak the location of Yveltal to Team Flare. Team Flare, that was the charitable organization under Lysandra Labs, right? Leaf frowned, thinking back. Dylan had once walked her through the evil organizations across the regions, and Team Flare had been one of them. Yeah. They really were a charity group once. They used their research earnings to help people in need, no strings attached. Dylan nodded. That sounds pretty good? Lily said hesitantly. At first, yes. But people are greedy. As their charity work expanded, folks became more demanding, fighting over resources, hoarding, even hurting each other. Eventually, Lysandra grew disillusioned. That's when he got a new idea. Dylan spread his hands helplessly. Lysandra was a man driven mad by disappointment with humanity. The girls fell silent. He's been chasing Yveltal to activate the ultimate weapon. If we leak its location, he'll definitely come. That was Dylan's plan to lure Lysandra in. Meanwhile, Lysandra Labs, Mier City. Inside the Flare Cafe, one of Team Flare's research headquarters. Lysandra stood quietly, gazing at a simulated wilderness chamber. Waves of magnetic energy pulsed through the tank. Within it, a tiny green creature was curled up, visibly struggling. Boss, we've received a special report. A woman with purple hair and a tight red uniform walked over. It was Seloja, one of Team Flare's core scientists. Speak. Lysandra didn't take his eyes off the green Pokemon in the tank. We have a confirmed sighting of Yveltal. You're sure? He turned slowly, the waves of emotion roiled beneath his calm surface. Positive. It's the cocoon of destruction. And the intel came straight from the Kalos League. Excellent. Prepare to move. We're going to the cocoon's location. Lysandra didn't hesitate for a second. He had been searching for Yveltal for too long. When that failed, he'd turned to the Zygarde core as a backup plan. With Yveltal, he could finally activate the ultimate weapon. Yes, sir, Seloja replied without question. As long as we secure Yveltal, this world can finally become truly beautiful. Lysandra turned his eyes back toward the tank. His gaze burned as he looked at the little green swirl of a Pokemon. Zygarde's core. The ultimate weapon. 3,000 years ago, it was used by King Az of Kalos to end a war. They called it the Tool of the Gods. And Lysandra's ancestor had been Az's own brother. That legacy had led him here. He had rediscovered the ultimate weapon. But to activate it, he needed the power of either Xerneas or Yveltal. So he had searched and searched for Yveltal. Now, with Yveltal in hand, his dream was within reach. And even if he couldn't capture it, I have Zygarde. I'm unstoppable. He stared into the chamber at Zygarde's core, a wild grin spreading across his face. Catching Yveltal might be hard. But who cares? With Zygarde, he could take on the world. Chapter 395, What Should Be Done? Lysandra had made up his mind to capture Yveltal, and he didn't hesitate. He was a man of decisive action. Besides, he had waited far too long. Lysandra had made up his mind to capture Yveltal, and he didn't hesitate. He was a man of decisive action. Besides, he had waited far too long for this opportunity. He couldn't wait any longer to purify this filthy world. Boss, but we still can't fully control the Zygarde core, and we haven't located the second Zygarde core yet, said Zerozic, the burly man in the red uniform, frowning. He was the only male scientist among Team Flare's ranks. Through their research, Team Flare had discovered the Zygarde core.
But there were 2 Zygarde cores and they had only captured one. The other was still missing. If we rely on just one core, we can't be sure the transformed Zygarde will be able to defeat Yveltal, Zerozic said worriedly. After all, Yveltal was the legendary Pokémon of destruction, its power would undoubtedly be immense. No need to worry, Zerozic. You underestimate Zygarde. Lysandra was calm and confident. Among the 3 Aura Pokémon, Zygarde, the embodiment of order, was unquestionably the strongest. Even if not at full power, it was still the strongest. Besides, with our support, Zygarde will not lose to Yveltal. Lysandra's confidence soared, his dream was finally within reach. As long as we get Yveltal, our ideal world will come to pass. We'll sweep away the garbage of Kalos, those foolish people. A beautiful world will be born. Lysandra's tone was almost fanatical. Zerozic nodded silently. Their leader's dream was their dream too. Desert City. Thank you so much for looking after Hoopa. At a remote pavilion once more, Murray cast a helpless glance at the grinning Hoopa. No need to thank us. Hoopa is adorable, we really like it, Dylan replied with a smile. After relocating Yveltal's cocoon of destruction to the canyon, Dylan and the others had returned to Desert City. According to Diantha, the information had definitely been sent to Team Flare. The only question was when they'd make their move. But Dylan was certain once they verified the intel, Lysandra would come. A man as obsessed as Lysandra, his fixation on Yveltal bordered on pathological. Because Yveltal was the final piece to his plan. Just then, a majestic bird Pokémon descended from the sky Braviary. On Braviary's back sat a handsome young man holding a strange, ornate vessel. It was Baraz, also from the Valley of Creation. Brother! Baraz! Murray and Hoopa both lit up with joy at the sight of him. Wait, something's wrong. Dylan stood up and held them back, watching Baraz carefully as he dismounted. His expression was blank, movement stiff and most disturbingly, a flickering red glow pulsed within his eyes. Dylan's gaze dropped to the object in his hand, the prison bottle, the vessel used to seal away Hoopa's power. Baraz had clearly found it. Before Murray or Hoopa could ask anything, Baraz suddenly opened the bottle and aimed its mouth at Hoopa. Boom! A torrent of pitch-black energy burst forth, surging toward Hoopa. Hoopa hadn't even registered what was happening before its body was engulfed, rising helplessly into the air. What is that? Leaf gaped up at the sky, stunned by the swirling black energy that seemed to blot out the sun. That's Hoopa's sealed power returning to its body, Dylan said quietly, eyes narrowing as he glanced at Baraz. When the torrent of power ended, Baraz collapsed to his knees, clutching his head in agony. That was Hoopa's energy? There was so much. Murray gasped, her voice filled with shock. The energy had blanketed the sky like a dark curtain, like a reverse tornado funneling into Hoopa. Then, Hoopa's cute little form vanished. And in its place, under the harsh sunlight, a terrifying Pokémon slammed into the ground. Is this Hoopa's true form? Lily covered her mouth in shock, scanning the massive figure before her. It was colossal, like a giant headless brute with no arms, its massive dreadlock-like hair jutting upward in jagged spikes. A gaping hole yawned in its chest. Unbound Hoopa. Beep Hoopa, unbound form, psychic/dark type. Gin Pokémon. Ability, Magician. Moves: Hyperspace Fury, Psychic, Dark Pulse, Trick Room, Nasty Plot. Entry, said to possess immense power. Legend has it, it once lifted an entire castle full of treasure and stole it. Rotom Dex recited its data diligently. Gin Pokémon, Eileen stared in awe at the terrifying, violent giant. The pressure radiating from it was staggering. Was this really the same mischievous little creature from earlier? Hoopa is strong. Unbound Hoopa laughed maniacally, its voice now deep and booming, a far cry from its cute tone before. But Hoopa didn't notice that. Right now, it felt only unbridled joy. For the first time in 100 years, its power had returned.
The surge of strength filled it with euphoria. Hoopa! Murray looked up at the monstrous figure. Though part of her felt joy for Hoopa, an uneasy shadow crept into her heart. Murray! Baraz! I! Unbound Hoopa lowered its head, gazing at its two friends. Just as it opened its mouth to speak, a violent, malicious force surged into its mind. Ugh! Icy, pitch-black malice smothered Hoopa's consciousness. It trembled, then fell like a massive weight uncontrollably. Move! Dylan yanked everyone back. Crash! The pavilion was utterly flattened beneath Hoopa's massive form, dust rising in clouds. What the heck just happened? Leaf was dumbfounded. Did a legendary Pokemon just trip? No. Something's wrong with it, Dylan muttered, eyes narrowing. Murray stared anxiously into the dust. Baraz frowned deeply. Roar! Suddenly, a deep, guttural snarl shook the air. Two crimson lights flared within the haze. The massive black silhouette slowly rose again. Unbound Hoopa hovered into the air, a suffocating aura emanating from its body. Its eyes, Eileen noticed first. Its formerly normal eyes were now glowing blood-red, full of seething hatred and malice. SHNK. SHNK. With a slicing sound, two gray arms shot out from the 6 holes on Hoopa's sides. The 6-armed titan floated in midair. Disappear! All of you disappear! Unbound Hoopa's voice rumbled with fury, shouting at something unseen. Dark energy crackled in front of the hole in its chest, dark pulse. Baraz! Call it back! Dylan shouted to the dazed man. Right! Baraz snapped out of it and raised the prison bottle, chanting an incantation. The bottle glowed mysteriously. Hoopa stiffened in midair, glaring down with its glowing red eyes. The pressure was chilling, but Baraz's concern for Hoopa outweighed his fear. The dark energy began to surge out of Hoopa's body again, flowing back into the bottle. Within moments, unbound Hoopa vanished. The familiar small form of Hoopa emerged and collapsed. Dylan stepped forward and caught it just in time. The poor thing was drenched in cold sweat and utterly drained. Hoopa, are you okay? It was so scary. Dylan, so dark. Its voice was weak and fearful. The others were stunned. Wasn't that Hoopa's own power? It's all right now. You're safe, Dylan gently wiped Hoopa's face, speaking soothingly. Hoopa bit its lip, clearly still shaken. Brother! Murray cried out. Dylan turned and saw Baraz trembling violently, still holding the bottle. This time, everyone sensed something wrong. Brother, the bottle. Lily pointed at the prison bottle in Baraz's hands. The eye marking on it was glowing ominously red. Disappear. I said disappear. Baraz suddenly raised his head, his eyes were the same terrifying red. His voice was just like unbound Hoopa's. Before he could finish his sentence. WHRRRRRR. A surge of deep blue energy enveloped him. The bottle flew from his hand and landed on the ground. Shiny Newtwo hovered beside Dylan, eyes glowing as it glared at the cursed vessel. Yes, Dylan had called out his shiny Newtwo. Are you okay? Murray ran to support Baraz. I'm fine. Thank you, stranger, Baraz said, clutching his chest, still trembling. No need to thank me. That thing, it's cursed. Something's wrong with it. Dylan looked down at the bottle. Now that it had no host, it lay silent again. But everyone knew it was dangerous. What happened, brother? Murray asked. I followed the clues left by our great-grandfather and found the prison bottle. But after touching it, I lost consciousness. It brought my body here, Baraz explained solemnly. His powers were stronger than Murray's, and he understood now. But that was Hoopa's own power, wasn't it? Lily asked in confusion. It's not the same as me, Hoopa whispered, clearly frightened, not daring to approach the bottle. Indeed, it had developed a psychological fear of it. Yes, it was Hoopa's power.
But after being sealed for so long, it likely developed a separate, evil consciousness, one that's completely different from Hoopa's, Baraz theorized. He had just experienced that firsthand.
Wait, power grew its own mind? Leaf was stunned. Exactly.
And that malice is so strong that it can overpower even Hoopa itself, Baraz nodded.
If we ever let it loose, Hoopa may never be the Hoopa we know again. He looked sadly at the still weak Pokemon.
That was why he'd gone searching for the bottle in the first place, to return Hoopa's strength. But now, knowing that doing so could destroy Hoopa as they knew it, he couldn't let it happen.
I don't want it. Hoopa refused flatly, shaking its head.
The experience had left a scar, it didn't want to go through that ever again. It's not impossible, Dylan said thoughtfully. After all, it is Hoopa's power.
That evil shouldn't be the one in control. If we can purify or destroy the second consciousness, Hoopa can reclaim its strength. And more importantly, we can't just leave this bottle somewhere. Anyone who touches it will be possessed. Nowhere is safe. Dylan's voice was calm, but serious.
Baraz fell silent. He was right, but that power was part of Hoopa. And now, it was under the control of something evil.
If they released it again, who could stop it? Chapter 396, This is the Wing of Death.
Baraz wasn't entirely sure how powerful Unbound Hoopa truly was, but from the spectacle earlier, it was clear that it was extremely strong. Baraz wasn't entirely sure how powerful Unbound Hoopa truly was, but from the spectacle earlier, it was clear that it was extremely strong. That was why Baraz was reluctant to take risks. He knew the prison bottle was dangerous. After all, in a world where travel was a major trend, even if they hid the bottle in a remote, untouched location, there was no telling when some wandering trainer might stumble upon it by chance. Worse, the evil consciousness inside the prison bottle might even be capable of controlling other Pokemon. But all of that was hypothetical. Right now, if they released whatever was sealed within that bottle, Hoopa could be in immediate danger. So Baraz hesitated, and so did Murray.
Hoopa, what do you think? Dylan glanced at the siblings, then turned to Hoopa. Do you want to reclaim your power, or keep it sealed in the prison bottle? Hearing this, both Baraz and Murray looked at Hoopa.
Regardless of their concerns, they still wanted to respect Hoopa's choice. Since they had decided to return its power, it was only right to ask for Hoopa's own opinion.
Ugh, but that thing is really strong. Hoopa scrunched up its little face.
Just thinking about the flood of malice and darkness earlier still made it shiver.
But to give up its power forever? That was hard to accept. After all, that was its power. How unfair, its own strength was trying to devour it. You don't think I can handle it? Dylan raised an eyebrow. Well, now that you mention it. Hoopa froze for a moment, then its eyes lit up.
Right, Dylan had so many legendary auras on him. There was no way he couldn't deal with that thing.
Hoopa had always believed itself to be strong, but not so arrogant as to think it was invincible.
Even Hoopa knew it couldn't take on that many powerful legends alone. Besides, it didn't believe the evil spirit could fully utilize its own power.
If it's you, Dylan, then it'll be totally fine. Hoopa's mood brightened.
If Dylan was willing to help it get rid of that evil consciousness, that would be perfect.
Good, as long as you agree. Dylan turned to the siblings.
Since Hoopa's willing, we'll give it a try, but if anything seems off, we'll stop immediately.
Baraz let out a sigh and gave a serious nod.
Of course.
Just be careful.
I still don't know how powerful you are.
He really didn't know who Dylan was.
After all, those from the Valley of Creation lived in seclusion.
Baraz had no idea about Dylan's identity. Frankly, he even doubted whether Dylan could actually deal with the evil spirit. Still, Hoopa wasn't a fool, even if it was mischievous.
If it trusted Dylan this much, there must be a reason.
No rush. If we do this in Desert City, it could endanger the whole place. Let's wait until the fish bites the bait. Dylan smiled faintly. He definitely wouldn't release the evil Hoopa here.
Because once the fight broke out and the Shadow Hoopa realized it was at a disadvantage, it would definitely summon legendary Pokemon.
The real world was nothing like the anime.
In the movies, even massive legendary clashes barely damaged anything. But Dylan knew the truth: when real legendary Pokemon fought, they became walking natural disasters.
Whether Desert City would even remain standing afterward was a real question.
He was genuinely looking forward to this battle. In the movie, the evil Hoopa had summoned Giratina, Palkia, Dialga, Kyurem, Primal Groudon, and Primal Kyogre. But now Kyurem was already on his team. There was no way the Shadow Hoopa could summon that same lineup.
So who would it summon instead? Or would it call forth an entirely different legendary set? Dylan was very curious. Fish?
Baraz and Murray both blinked in confusion.
The next day came quickly. The prison bottle remained sealed underground in quiet.
By noon, with the intel confirmed, Dylan had Shiny Mutwo use psychic power to control the prison bottle, and together with Baraz and the others, returned to the canyon where they had placed Yveltal's cocoon of destruction.
At the same time, Lysandra and the members of Team Flare also arrived at the canyon.
They had traveled in a large truck, hence the delay. Once parked at the canyon's entrance, Lysandra immediately led his team inside.
That really is the cocoon of destruction. Lysandra's gaze locked onto the black object at the bottom of the pit. Its resemblance to the legendary cocoon was unmistakable.
His eyes burned with intensity.
There was a 90% chance he was right. He had finally found Yveltal.
Still, he kept his composure and sent a group of subordinates to examine the cocoon.
They needed to confirm it was the real thing and wake it up, too.
A squad of Team Flare grunts approached the pit, pulling out scanning devices to inspect the cocoon.
But before they could begin, the cocoon began to emit a faint red glow, unnervingly ominous. The glow spread outward from the cocoon in all directions.
A deep, oppressive aura settled over the grunts, making them uneasy as they stared at the strange light.
Boss. Zerozic's expression turned grim. Ha ha. It's Yveltal, no doubt about it. Get Zygarde ready, Lysandra ordered, grinning. Understood. Zerozic turned and sprinted back to the truck. The red light intensified, blindingly bright. Scree!
The cocoon of destruction rose into the air and began to shift, a violent screech tearing through the sky.
Pull back. Lysandra began retreating. As much as he wanted Yveltal, he wasn't foolish. He knew it was dangerous. And now, Yveltal was fully awake, surging with malevolent red light, its icy eyes scanning the humans below. Its wings spread wide like claws, its tail curved upward, forming the iconic Y shape. Every Team Flare member in the canyon was trembling. Yveltal's aura was overwhelming. Its eyes showed no emotion, as if everything it looked at was already dead. Scree! With another shriek, Yveltal folded its wings slightly. Its crimson glow flared. It was about to attack. Run! Lysandra felt a chill shoot up his spine. Every hair on his body stood on end. He bolted for the canyon's exit, shouting at his subordinates to retreat. Some smart grunts quickly threw out their Pokemon. No way human legs could outrun a legendary's wrath. They released Pokemon like Leopard, Toxicroak, Mytiana, Golbat. Scree! A beam of crimson light rained down from the heavens. Oblivion Wing, Yveltal's signature move. The light descended like judgment, freezing everyone in its path. Golbat, protect. Leopard, sucker punch. Mytiana, tackle. They tried to fight back, but it was useless. The crimson beam devoured everything in its path, sweeping away all attacks. Desperation filled their eyes as it hit. Boom! Explosions rang out as Oblivion Wing swept across the battlefield. Yet those hit weren't shattered or burned. Instead, every living thing, human, Pokemon, even plants, was turned into lifeless stone statues. From above, concealed by Mutwo's psychic barrier, Dylan and the others watched in horror. The entire canyon was a wasteland. They turned to stone.
Lily whispered, her eyes wide. They had their life force drained.
They're gone. Only Xerneas could revive them, Dylan said calmly.
That was Yveltal's terrifying power. It devoured life indiscriminately, restoring its own strength in the process. Unless Xerneas used its life-giving energy, nothing could save those lost to Yveltal. Such was the tragic link between Yveltal and Xerneas, one destroyed, the other gave life. Lily fell silent. She had never seen living beings die before, especially not in such a horrifying way. Scree! Yveltal wasn't satisfied. It turned toward the Team Flare members who had escaped the canyon. Its crimson aura flared again. It wasn't done. It would annihilate everything that disturbed its rest. Zerozic! Lysandra barked into his communicator, his face tense. He had seen everything in the canyon. It was horrifying. But at the same time, his eyes gleamed with fanatical awe. Yveltal's power was incredible. With that energy, he could activate the ultimate weapon and succeed in his plan. Ready, boss, Zerozic's voice crackled back. The truck's back doors opened, mechanical arms lifting out a cage containing a green, worm-like Zygarde core with a blue core in its belly. Its eyes were glowing blood red, its body trembling. High above, Dylan saw the Zygarde core and raised an eyebrow. Humans! The cage opened and the core leapt out, its crimson eyes flashing with growing intensity. Humans, those wretched humans! Consumed by rage, it lost all reason. Zeduu! Black and red light engulfed the core. Beams of green light rained down like meteors from across Kalos. Swarm transformation. The light exploded outward. Zygarde's 50% for me emerged, snarling furiously. Berserk Zygarde! Yveltal froze, gazing at the ground. Its eyes narrowed. It recognized Zygarde, but it also sensed something was wrong. That berserk, destructive aura, even stronger than its own. Was Zygarde joining its team of destruction? TSK Tisk. Dylan clicked his tongue, watching the black and red Zygarde below. Just like the anime, the same corrupted form controlled by Team Flare. Still. A classic ground type that can't fly, going up against a flying type. This should be fun. He smirked, glancing between the berserk Zygarde and the furious Yveltal. Yup, this was going to be good. After all, Zygarde's 50% snake form? Couldn't fly. Chapter 397, Seems I'll have to defeat you. In the skies, Yveltal. On the ground, the berserk Zygarde. Two legendary aura Pokemon stared each other down from afar, a suffocating tension. In the skies, Yveltal. On the ground, the berserk Zygarde. Two legendary aura Pokemon stared each other down from afar, a suffocating tension hanging in the air. It was, undeniably, a classic scene. Dylan didn't hesitate to take out his camera and snap a picture. Yes, he would keep this one well preserved. After all, this black and red Zygarde was a true one of a kind. Normally, Zygarde's color scheme was black and green. Shiny Zygarde, white and green. But this corrupted black and red variant? It had only ever appeared in the anime, a result of Team Flare's brutal experiments. Ding Zygarde, 50% for me, Dragon/Ground type, Order Pokemon. Ability, Aura Break, Swarm Change. Signature moves, Thousand Arrows, Lens Wrath, Outrage, Earthquake, Blare, Safeguard. Description, a form comprising about half of Zygarde's body. Tasked with monitoring the ecosystem. 50% for me. The Rotom Dex dutifully gave its report. This is just the 50% form? Lily looked puzzled as she gazed down at the dangerous, rage-filled serpent. So Zygarde isn't in its full form right now? Zygarde's a very special Pokemon, Dylan explained in detail. It monitors the balance of ecosystems, so to do that more efficiently, it splits itself into countless cells scattered all over the world. Those cells can't battle, nor do they have will. But unlike the cells, Zygarde's cores, like that little worm earlier, are basically its brain. Cores don't fight either, but they can summon cells to combine into higher forms, like this 50% form, Dylan continued.
That's thanks to Zygarde's special ability, Swarm Change.
In the games, Zygarde had two possible abilities in its 50% form, Aura Break or Power Construct, Swarm Change.
Swarm Change triggered when Zygarde's HP dropped below half, allowing it to become its complete form. But that was just a game mechanic. In reality, Zygarde could transform regardless of HP thresholds. It was innate, not an ability requirement. Amazing, Leaf murmured, genuinely in awe. Can't believe there's a Pokemon like that.
Big brother,
Lily turned to Dylan. Do you think Zygarde can beat Yveltal?
Who knows, Dylan shrugged.
Each region's third legendary is usually designed to suppress its region's main legendaries. Like Rayquaza countering Groudon and Kyogre, Kyurem fusing with Reshiram or Zekrom, or Necrozma absorbing Solgaleo or Lunala.
Zygarde's ability, Aura Break, is specifically made to counter Yveltal and Xerneas. Aura Break reverses aura effects and reduces their power. And only Yveltal and Xerneas had aura-based abilities in the first place.
So it was very clearly built to counter them.
Aura abilities were a major buff for Yveltal and Xerneas, but against Aura Break, those abilities not only lost their effect, they became debuffs. In other words, hard counter. But unlike the games, in the real-world Pokemon could choose whether or not to activate their abilities. And clearly, upon seeing Zygarde, Yveltal's black aura faded back into its body.
Smart bird. Clearly it had been burned before. Scree! Yveltal let out a low cry. Zedu!
But the berserk Zygarde's mind was long gone. It screamed into the sky. The ground trembled as black vines erupted, destroying the canyon terrain. The 6 hexagonal cores on Zygarde's neck flared with a sinister red light.
A barrage of black-red arrows burst forth, 1,000 arrows.
This was Zygarde's signature move, designed to strike flying opponents.
Unlike standard ground-type attacks, 1,000 arrows ignored immunities and could knock airborne Pokemon to the ground. Scree! Yveltal's eyes turned icy. That damn snake actually attacked it? Whether it was insane or not, Yveltal wasn't going to let it go.
Crimson light flared across its wings, Oblivion Wing.
Boom! 1,000 arrows clashed with Oblivion Wing in a dazzling explosion.
The two beams lit up the sky, neither gaining the upper hand.
Only 1,000 arrows in Land's Wrath, huh? Looks like it hasn't reached its complete form yet and can't use its full signature moves. Dylan glanced over the data. Zygarde had 4 signature moves. More than almost any Pokemon. According to the anime, this core with a blue belly was Z2. The other was Z1 aka Squishy. As the shockwave faded, Yveltal dove toward Zygarde, clearly enraged.
And the berserk Zygarde was more than happy to oblige, launching forward with a snarl. Blue flames of Brave Bird ignited around Yveltal, while Zygarde's body glowed with the white spiral energy of Giga Impact.
Boom! The two collided with a thunderous crash, shockwaves tearing through the canyon.
Both were sent flying backward, but neither gave an inch. The moment they regained balance, they charged again. A raging bird and a berserk snake locked in a ferocious battle.
Yveltal really is strong.
Far off, Lysandra and his team had retreated to a safe distance, watching the clash.
Lysandra laughed loudly. That was power.
That was the power to achieve his dream.
Zerozic, can we push Zygarde further? It's not quite enough to suppress Yveltal yet. Zygarde should be stronger than this. Lysandra turned to a scientist.
It can be done, Zerozic frowned.
But if it goes any further, we'll lose control completely.
If Zygarde got any stronger, they wouldn't be able to rein it in, not just Yveltal, even they themselves would be in danger.
Fine. Then we wait. Lysandra nodded. Too risky for now. But didn't think Team Flare actually found Zygarde.
A clear male voice interrupted.
A magnificent white dragon descended behind Lysandra's group, Reshiram.
Riding on its back, Dylan stepped down, eyes calm.
Lysandra turned immediately, frowning deeply as he recognized the newcomer. Champion Dylan of Kanto. Lysandra didn't normally pay attention to current events, but even he had heard about Dylan defeating Kalos's former champion, Diantha. Champion Dylan, Lysandra greeted.
Didn't expect to meet you here. What a surprise.
They had briefly met before, in Sunrise Cafe. But Lysandra never expected to see him again. Especially not now, and not like this. This was trouble. If the Kalos League found out they were experimenting on Zygarde, it would be over.
I didn't expect you either, Mr. Lysandra, Dylan smiled faintly. The famously charitable man turns out to be quite dangerous behind closed doors.
Controlling Zygarde by machine?
That takes guts.
Lysandra's aide stiffened. Care to explain yourself, Mr. Lysandra? Lysandra said nothing. No? Dylan sighed. That's a shame. Guess I'll have to take you all to see Officer Jenny. He pulled out a luxury ball.
Morgrim appeared, holding a tissue in one hand, a phone in the other. Eyes watery, clearly watching a tearjerker again. Once it realized where it was, it quickly scurried behind Dylan, frantically dabbing at its eyes. Lysandra and his men looked at the odd little Pokemon. He was going to use that to stop them? Dylan, do you know what this world is really like? Lysandra's deep voice rang out. He was starting to doubt the rumors. Maybe Dylan wasn't just another flashy trainer. I'm listening. Dylan ruffled Morgrim's hair. He wasn't in a hurry. There was still time. Zygarde and Yveltal were still tearing into each other in the background. The world. I once believed it was clean. People were like Kalos's legendaries, there were givers, and there were takers. I wanted to be a giver too. Dylan nodded. The giver and taker analogy clearly referred to Yveltal and Xerneas. And to be fair, Lysandra had indeed been a philanthropist once. But there are fools who only take and flaunt their power. Such filth must be purged. Lysandra's voice grew heavy. Sure, the world has plenty of idiots. So? Dylan replied casually. Lazy parasites will only devour our future. If things go on, this world will grow uglier, and conflict will never end. His tone grew passionate. 3,000 years ago, Kalos's king created a weapon to erase the filth of his era. And now, I will follow in his footsteps. You've lost your mind, Dylan said calmly. So you still don't understand me, Champion Dylan? Lysandra wasn't surprised by the reaction. Most people probably thought he was mad. But he believed himself more lucid than ever. The world has limits. People and Pokemon? Too many. When there's only one of something, it can't be shared. And what can't be shared will be fought over. That leads to loss. He grew solemn. So I want to create a world without conflict, where people can live beautifully. To do that, I must reduce the number of lives. Dylan chuckled. So this guy had been driven into becoming a population control zealot by the actions of the greedy and stupid. No wonder. You're wrong. Killing solves nothing. People are complex. The best we can do is guide them. He patted Morgrim, who sniffled and reluctantly handed him the phone, then put on its mossy mask and stepped forward. I see. Lysandra pulled out a pokeball. A Gyarados appeared before him. Lysandra raised a megastone, an evolution light shone. A fierce Mega Gyarados roared. Seems I'll have to defeat you after all, Champion Dylan. Humph. That little crybaby with the tissues? There's no way it can beat my Mega Gyarados. Lysandra was confident. He would win. Chapter 398, I'm the real one. Mega Gyarados roared with its gaping maw, a violent aura radiating from its massive form. As Lysandra's ace Pokemon, it was indeed formidable. Mega Gyarados roared with its gaping maw, a violent aura radiating from its massive form. As Lysandra's ace Pokemon, it was indeed formidable. But Dylan was genuinely a little surprised. Mr. Lysandra, are you seriously challenging me to a battle? He glanced over, a bit amused. Honestly, since he'd wiped out Team Rocket, he hadn't fought anyone from an evil organization.
Well, excluding Kalos's Team Flare and Sinuous Team Galactic, there weren't many left anyway. Champion Dylan, I'm well aware you defeated Ms. Diantha, but do you think that record alone is enough to intimidate me? Lysandra said calmly. Diantha was Kalos's former champion, of course Lysandra knew how powerful she was. And someone who beat her with just 3 Pokemon was obviously even stronger. But that didn't mean he would back down. I see. Dylan gave a faint smile.
Man, this guy's got guts, Leaf said, pulling out her camera from her spatial backpack.
Challenging Dylan with just a Mega Gyarados? Gotta send this to Archer and the others. She genuinely thought Lysandra's courage deserved admiration. That's what evil organizations needed. No guts, no glory. Ding Gyarados, Mega Evolution, Water/Dark type, atrocious Pokemon. Ability, Mold Breaker. Signature moves, Hyper Beam, Outrage, Aqua Tail, Dragon Dance, Crunch, Waterfall. Description: though it has an instinct to destroy everything, it will obey the trainer it truly trusts. Mega Evolution. A solid powerhouse. Lily listened as the Rotom Dex recited its data, scanning the massive beast. Still, it didn't seem quite as scary as Wallace's Gyarados. He doesn't seem to know much about Dylan, huh?
Eileen tilted her head, puzzled by Lysandra's composed demeanor.
Otherwise, how else could he be standing there like that? Come, Champion Dylan.
Let me see just how strong the one who defeated Ms. Diantha really is.
Lysandra was full of fighting spirit.
He hadn't felt any pressure from that little green guy Dylan sent out. He was being underestimated, clearly. But that was fine, let Dylan let his guard down. Once Zygarde beat Yveltal and joined him, the power dynamic would shift. For now, he'd humor the champion.
Okay, ID Cudgel. Dylan raised an eyebrow.
Ogerpon lowered her mask, and a thorny cudgel formed in her right hand before she launched forward at high speed.
It moved so fast that even Mega Gyarados couldn't react. In the blink of an eye, Ogerpon had already leapt into the air in front of it. A grass-type Ivy Cudgel. Boom! And just like that. Silence. TCH.
Mr. Lysandra, looks like you still need to train your Gyarados better.
Can't even take one hit. Dylan shrugged casually.
Ogerpon pulled her mask back on and tilted her head at the limp, unconscious Gyarados on the ground.
That's right.
One Ivy Cudgel, and the Mega Gyarados was down. It even reverted from Mega form, completely knocked out.
Lysandra stared blankly at his ace. He was stunned.
So were the other Team Flare members, Xerosic included.
That was the boss's ace. How could this happen? Nothing to say, Mr. Lysandra? Dylan asked, still smiling faintly. Lysandra's pupils twitched.
He took a deep breath and tried to steady himself.
He finally understood why Diantha had lost so badly. Champion Dylan. I'm listening, Mr. Lysandra.
I think we should talk.
Lysandra's tone softened. He was actually worried now, worried Dylan might move against them immediately. At this point, there's nothing left to talk about, Mr. Lysandra. Dylan couldn't help but chuckle. Why did that line sound so familiar? Ah, yes, Archer once said something just like that.
No, Champion Dylan, I don't believe you and I are truly at odds, Lysandra said, trying to be reasonable.
This is Kalos, not Kanto. And you are the champion of Kanto.
He even used an honorific this time, thinking his logic was sound.
After all, Kalos and Kanto were far apart. What happened here didn't impact Kanto at all. Oh, Mr. Lysandra, you're such a comedian. Dylan shook his head. Even if we belong to different regions, we're all part of the Pokemon League. And while I don't know exactly what you're planning.
He looked toward the battling Zygarde and Yveltal, eyes narrowing.
That's one hell of a disturbance. And your earlier speech, Mr. Lysandra, was very concerning.
He had the slightly dominant Berserk Zygarde, looks like even in 50% form, it could suppress Yveltal.
Just like Kyurem or Necrozma. Even though their base stats weren't higher, in story they could easily overpower Reshiram/Zekrom or Solgaleo/Lunala. Lissandra's expression darkened. Leaf, go handle the rest. Dylan had lost interest in negotiating. Zygarde was Lissandra's trump card, and it wasn't under his full control anyway. As for Lissandra's personal strength, Dylan figured it was just SOSO. Leaf alone could handle them. Got it. Leaf pouted slightly but released her Pokemon, walking toward the Team Flare group. Meanwhile, Dylan sent a message to Baraz with his phone. Not long after, a Braviary appeared in the sky. Dylan. It's Dylan. Forget it. He flicked the forehead of the diving Hoopa, sighing. The teary-eyed Hoopa clutched its head, and Dylan couldn't help but smile. This little thing really was too cute. Dylan, what's this about? Baraz and Murray were stunned, watching Leaf beat the crap out of Team Flare. Just an extremist group. Leaf's making sure they're no longer a threat, Dylan replied offhandedly. And that? Murray gaped at the ongoing serpent versus bird brawl in the distance. Whoa, Zygarde and Yveltal. Wait, why's Zygarde's color weird? Hoopa's eyes lit up with curiosity. It was clearly excited by the fight. That big bird is seriously lame. Can't even beat this form of Zygarde. But it quickly pouted, unimpressed by Yveltal's performance. Well, it is Zygarde. Let's get started then. Hoopa scared? Dylan turned to Hoopa with a grin, summoning his shiny Mutwo. Hoopa scrunched its face. Still traumatized. Relax. I won't let anything happen to you. Dylan patted its head gently. Dylan Hoopa sniffled, touched. You little rascal, Dylan chuckled. After giving some instructions to Baraz and the others, he and Hoopa mounted Reshiram and flew toward the canyon. Reshiram didn't really want to be near Hoopa, but after sensing it was no longer the same chaotic menace, it reluctantly accepted it. Mutwo. At Dylan's call, the shiny Mutwo extended its hand. Psychic blue light surged from its eyes, and a massive force began to stir. The canyon trembled. From the ruins, an oddly shaped ancient urn floated up, held by Mutwo's telekinesis. That's right. Yesterday, Dylan had instructed Mutwo to secretly place the prison bottle here. Open it. Mutwo complied. The moment the lid came off, whoosh. A torrent of black energy burst out, blotting out the sky. Even Zygarde and Yveltal momentarily paused their battle at the sudden presence. Mutwo's glowing eyes narrowed. As a psychic type, it could feel the overwhelming malice all too clearly. The sinister black energy churned in the air before locking onto its target and surged straight toward Hoopa. Dragon Pulse. Reshiram flapped backward, unleashing a blast of energy at the darkness. Boom! Dragon Pulse met the black tide but was quickly overwhelmed and shattered. Still, the brief resistance seemed to give the dark power pause. Realizing Hoopa was resisting, it shifted focus. In the skies, the black energy began to twist and coalesce, taking form. Hoopa stared in shock as a massive, demonic figure emerged, nearly identical to its unbound form. Ghostly light shimmered across its body. Two glowing red eyes pierced the shadows. That was unbound Hoopa. What? How? Hoopa was stunned. That was itself. It was it. But how? Its power not only grew its own mind, it could mimic its appearance perfectly? Could it also use its abilities? Hoopa felt its mind spinning. What the heck was that? Swish, swish, swish. With a rush of air, 6 gray severed arms flew from the creature's side, hovering in formation. Unbound Hoopa's crimson eyes locked onto Hoopa. Then it raised all 6 arms, each wrist adorned with a space ring. Whoosh! The rings enlarged and launched into the air, forming a row behind it. With a roar, colors began swirling within the portals. Hoopa was stunned. That thing could really use its powers? And 6 rings at once. He could only manage 3 right now. What the heck? I'm the real one. Chapter 399, My Power Switched Sides. The sky darkened. 6 massive space rings stood aligned in midair. Wind howled as Unbound Hoopa lifted its 6 thick severed arms beneath T. The sky darkened. 6 massive space rings stood aligned in midair. Wind howled as Unbound Hoopa lifted its 6 thick severed arms beneath the rings, waving them like some demonic god. The sheer pressure was suffocating. So heavy that it made it hard to breathe, with hearts pounding wildly. Dylan! This is bad. That thing's about to call for backup. Hoopa tugged nervously at Dylan's sleeve. That wicked consciousness was completely unhinged. Even it never dared summon 6 legends at once. But now? That thing was just going for it? And Hoopa knew full well summon legendaries might not always play nice. They could just turn around and attack you. Still, panic surged. Don't panic. Let's see who it calls. Dylan narrowed his eyes, the corners of his mouth curving into a wide grin. He was curious to see what Unbound Hoopa had in store. What's that Hoopa doing? Summoning legends? Lily stared into the distance, watching Unbound Hoopa and the 6 glowing space rings in awe. She'd seen Hoopa summon Yveltal's cocoon with a ring before, but this? 6 rings activated at once to summon 6 legendaries. That was insane. And it didn't even need to possess Hoopa to form a body, that's just wild. Eileen frowned, struggling to understand. Yveltal glanced uneasily between Unbound Hoopa and the smaller Hoopa. What even was happening here? On the ground, the berserk Zygarde flicked its tail, its violent eyes locked on Unbound Hoopa. Even in its unstable state, instinct screamed danger. Then, Unbound Hoopa's flailing arms stopped. The space ring's glow surged to blinding levels. It's happening. Dylan's eyes narrowed sharply. Ugh. From the first ring emerged a massive fish-like Pokémon, its blue body glowing with divine radiance as it unfurled its wings. Primal Kyogre, ruler of the seas. Zedu. The second ring unleashed a black Angreen Zygarde in its 50% form, crashing to the earth with a heavy thud. Z1 Core Zygarde, in serpentine form. Dylan raised an eyebrow at the sight. It wasn't the flightless version? Oh. So now we're calling the big boys, huh? What, couldn't summon the grounded one? Disrespect. From the third ring echoed a deep, draconic roar as a Pokémon cloaked in pink light floated out. Palkia, the dragon of space. The fourth ring glowed. Dialga, the time dragon, emerged majestically. From the fifth ring slithered a centipede-like shadow, body rippling like smoke. Giratina, in its origin for me. And then, from the sixth and final ring came a piercing roar as a sleek, black dragon burst into the sky. A pitch-black serpent coiled through the air. Shiny Rayquaza, ruler of the skies. 6 legendary Pokémon of immense stature in varied forms now filled the heavens, roaring, screeching, howling. A scene like something from legend. At their center stood Unbound Hoopa, crimson light glowing in its eyes, staring directly at the real Hoopa. This guy. Hoopa visibly shrank, huddling deeper into Dylan's arms. Why are Rayquaza and the rest just standing there behind that thing like bodyguards? It asked, flustered. As Hoopa itself, it knew how its powers worked. Its space rings were ridiculously powerful, but even they couldn't force summon legendaries to obey. More often than not, it summoned them and immediately had to fight them. But this? This wasn't right. Black Rayquaza and the others were just standing quietly? Their minds are being influenced by that shadow, Dylan said, eyes scanning the 6 legendaries before locking on Rayquaza. Oh boy. The main character's ace in the movie had switched sides. That's not right. Hoopa murmured, stunned. But now it saw it too. Their eyes. Just like Unbound Hoopa's, glowing with that same eerie red light. It confirmed it. But also, how the heck was that thing stronger than it?
Back near the canyon's edge, Leaf had finished flattening Lysandra and the Team Flare crew, leaving Blastoise and Iron Valiant to guard them. She returned to Lily and the others, only to freeze. Ha! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 legendary Pokémon. Add Unbound Hoopa, and that was 7 monsters of legend. Holy crap! Ding Palkia, Water/Dragon type, Spatial Pokémon. Ability, Pressure. Signature moves, Spatial Rend, Hydro Pump, Earth Power, Aqua Tail, Power Gem, Aura Sphere. Description, possesses the ability to warp space. In Sinnoh's mythology, it is revered as a god. Legends from Hisui say that its birth erased the boundaries between dimensions, creating infinite space. Palkia, the counterpart to Dialga, Master of Space. Sounds really strong. Lily gasped. Then she looked at the strange centipede-like one beside Palkia, Giratina. She didn't recognize that one. Ding Giratina, origin for me, Ghost/Dragon type, Renegade Pokémon. Ability, Levitate. Signature moves, Shadow Sneak, Destiny Bond, Earth Power, Dragon Claw, Aura Sphere, Shadow Claw. Description, banished for its violence, it dwells in the distortion world, silently observing the original world. Giratina? Lily tilted her head. That one was new to her. Can't believe it's come to this, Baraz muttered, watching Dylan anxiously. He never expected Hoopa's resentment to be so powerful. It had formed a body without needing the original. And now it was summoning and controlling legendaries? Too terrifying. Don't worry, Dylan's got this, Lily smiled gently, reassuring the siblings. Yeah, the enemy side was stacked. But her brother was unbeatable. Even Yveltal, feeling the crushing pressure from Unbound Hoopa's lineup, began to hesitate. Maybe it should just leave? It didn't want to get caught up in that. But then, around the Berserk Zygarde, space rings appeared, surrounding it completely. The mutated Zygarde hissed, its compound eyes flicking around. It didn't understand what these rings were, but it knew it was in danger. So it's targeting Zygarde first, Dylan muttered, narrowing his eyes. Hey! Unbound Hoopa hovered over the trapped Zygarde, flashing a terrifying grin. 6 dark fists launched from the rings. Hyperspace Fury. Boom! Each fist smashed into the injured Zygarde. Already weakened from fighting Yveltal, the Berserk Zygarde screeched in pain. Unbound Hoopa was ridiculously powerful. And then, the other red-eyed Zygarde slithered toward the Berserk one. So it's planning a fusion, Dylan confirmed. That Zygarde lunged at its weakened counterpart, green light exploding as they merged. Zedu! A massive roar shook the sky as emerald light formed a swirling vortex. With a deafening blast, a colossal figure appeared in the air. Zygarde complete for me. Yes, now it could fly. Ding Zygarde, complete for me. Dragon/Ground type, Order Pokémon. Ability, Power Construct, Swarm Change. Signature moves, Core Enforcer, 1000 Waves, 1000 Arrows, Land's Wrath, Dragon Pulse, Earthquake. Description, the complete form of Zygarde. Fires an ultimate energy blast from the mouth on its chest. Complete for me. So strong. The group stared up at the towering giant, Rotom's voice echoing in their ears. Zygarde's full form radiated way more pressure than its 50% form. It was absurdly powerful. And the worst part? It was now part of the enemy lineup. Its glowing red eyes matched Unbound Hoopa's exactly. Holy crap, Dylan! What do we do? Even complete Zygarde's out now. Hoopa panicked. It felt like a total weakling right now. Did that crazy Hoopa really need to go this far? Look at you, such a coward. Dylan flicked Hoopa's cheek, eyes shining with excitement. Hoopa pouted. Even back when it had full power, it wouldn't dare take on that kind of lineup alone. Now, Unbound Hoopa let out a furious roar of malice. Vanish! Hearing its shout, Hoopa instinctively flinched. But then puffed out its chest.
You should vanish. Give me back my power. It shouted back in its childish voice, glaring up at its evil counterpart. Unbound Hoopa's eyes flared violently, and it howled in rage. At its command, the 6 legendaries moved. Ru-ru-ar. Primal Kyogre led the charge, its body glowing with primal blue light. A deep, ancient call echoed as the sky above darkened. Primordial Sea activated. Under its influence, the arid desert was suddenly drenched in a torrential downpour. A ridiculous amount of rain. Shiny Rayquaza soared into the sky, light flashing as it mega-evolved. Dylan's eyes lit up. Alright, boys, time to brawl. He pulled out several luxury balls and hurled them skyward. Today's battle? A legend in the making. Chapter 400, Are you serious? Dylan, need my help? Hoopa can still summon 3 buddies too. Hoopa clung to Dylan's coat, eyes wide with nerves. Though it wasn't exactal. Dylan, need my help? Hoopa can still summon 3 buddies too. Hoopa clung to Dylan's coat, eyes wide with nerves. Though it wasn't exactly sure the ones it summoned would help them. No need, Hoopa. Just stay here and watch with me, Dylan replied calmly, turning down the offer. 7 legends as opponents, definitely tricky. But that's what made it fun. Let's brawl. Dylan tossed several luxury balls into the sky. Linua. Linyama. First to emerge were Duskmane Necrozma and Dawnwings Necrozma. This time, the fusions were reversed, Necrozma fused with Solgaleo, and Shiny Necrozma had taken Lunala as its partner. Roar! Kyurem appeared with a flash of electric light and immediately shifted into its black Kyurem form. Terrapagos entered in Terrastal form, and then immediately shifted into its stellar form, radiant with crystal energy. Eternatus floated high above them all, massive and imposing. Its shimmering purple pupils gazed coldly over the field. Calyrex, mounted on Spectrier, stood calmly beside Reshiram, tilting its head slightly toward the chaos ahead. And finally, dark red Rayquaza landed by Dylan's side. Its noble eyes scanned Hoopa's summoned legends. And froze on one in particular. Wait. Dylan. Why is my MOM on the other side? Rayquaza nearly choked. That was its mom. No doubt. Oh, yeah. That shiny Rayquaza, Hoopa summoned her over. Looks like her mind got taken over, Dylan replied casually. Then, with a smirk, he teased, hey, here's your chance, Rayquaza. You've always wanted to prove yourself, right? This is your moment. Dylan, you can't be serious. I'll get murdered. She'll kill me. Rayquaza panicked. Compared to its strict dad, it always knew its soft-spoken mother, Shiny Rayquaza, was the real boss at home. It had watched her beat the scales off its dad once. Nearly to death. From that day on, Rayquaza knew she was the real monster. No way, no way. Dylan, you're my trainer, my mentor. Please don't send me to my death. Rayquaza shook its head frantically. Pathetic. Black Kyurem scoffed. Rayquaza bristled. Briefly. A low, deep roar echoed through the rain clouds. Primal Kyogre loomed above, forming 4 orbs of gleaming blue water. Origin Pulse. Stellar Cluster. Dylan immediately gave the command to Terrapagos. Terrapagos' body glowed brilliantly as it shifted into stellar form. Atop its shell, the crystal pulsed. From it launched dozens of star-like energy bursts. Stellar Cluster, Terrapagos' signature move. Boom! 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 Origin Pulse and Stellar Cluster clashed in a dazzling explosion. Terrapagos flew toward Kyogre it had fought it once before in the Hoenn Seas. Dylan trusted it. Stellar Terrapagos was strong enough to take on Primal Kyogre. Twin draconic roars cut through the rain. Dialga tilted its head back, a blue light blazing from its maw. Palkia shifted, the pearl on its shoulder pulsing with pink light. Roar of Time. Spatial Rend. Almost in unison, the 2 dragons attacked. Necrozma! Dylan called out. Dusk-Mane Necrozma charged through the air, burning like a solar comet. Sunsteel Strike! Boom!
The strike collided with Roar of Time, pushing against the wave of temporal energy.
Dialga's eyes flickered, red light surging. It let out another roar and its energy flared. Roar of Time exploded outward. Dusk-Mane Necrozma was forced back but stabilized itself quickly. Linua!
It roared in frustration, clearly upset at the setback, and rushed forward again.
Dawnwing's Necrozma had blocked Palkia's spatial Ren with Mungeist Beam, and now launched toward it in retaliation.
For left, Dylan muttered.
Hoopa, Shiny Rayquaza, Complete Zygarde, and Origin for me Giratina.
Kyogre, Dialga, and Palkia were powerful. But these four were on another level.
Vanish! Hoopa's furious scream echoed through the rain.
And just like that, three of them moved.
Shiny Rayquaza soared upward, its pitch-black body glowing with green light as it performed Dragon Dance. Giratina's form shimmered in and out, weaving through the air toward Dylan's team. Calyrex! Dylan focused on the ghost dragon behemoth.
Banished to the reverse world for its cruelty, this was the god of antimatter, stronger than most legends.
Sure, it got clowned in one movie by some guy with a gadget. But in Hoopa's movie? Giratina was terrifying.
Shiny Rayquaza had fought 6 legends at once.
It even blocked their first coordinated attack with Delta Stream Tornado, powered up by dual psychic boosts. And when it hit Giratina with Dragon Ascent? Nothing. Literally nothing.
Giratina tanked the hit, got pushed into a wall, and casually shot back a Shadow Ball.
So yeah. Giratina? Serious business. Giratina, huh? Calyrex raised a hand.
Its sharp, intelligent eyes locked onto the ghostly dragon.
Spectrier shrieked, galloping skyward.
Black spirit particles swirled into hundreds of tiny orbs.
Astral barrage. Calyrex brought down its arm, sending a wave of black spirits at Giratina. Giratina's glowing red eyes scanned the attack. Its body turned semi-transparent. Boom! Boom! The barrage struck what seemed like Giratina's body, exploding in shadowy blasts.
But from within the blast zone, Giratina's phantasmal form slipped out, turning solid mid-flight as it lunged at Calyrex.
Shadow Force. Dylan's eyes gleamed. Unlike Shadow Sneak or Phantom Force, Giratina's Shadow Force wasn't just a disappear and reappear move. Its real body entered another dimension, leaving only a projection behind.
The attacks had struck the afterimage, but the real Giratina was elsewhere.
Spectrier! Calyrex called, and its steed dashed back, opening distance again. Calyrex was strong and fast enough to last even against Giratina. That left. Zygarde's 4x weak to ice. Kyurem, he's yours. Dylan turned to Black Kyurem. Sure, Zygarde was strong. But that weakness? Fatal. Leave it to me. Dragons are my specialty. Black Kyurem grinned, energy swirling at its tail. Glacial blue energy surged around it as it dove straight for Zygarde. Eternatus Eternamax. Eternatus vanished into the clouds.
Dark vortices spun above, glowing with sinister red light.
Its massive claw burst through the storm clouds, clashing with Shiny Rayquaza mid-air. 2 top-tier dragons unleashed overwhelming pressure. Rayquaza, guard us. If Hoopa tries anything funny, jump in. Dylan said to his Crimson Rayquaza beside him. He still had Dialga and Shiny Mutwo in reserve, but Mutwo was Psychic type. It'd be heavily countered by Hoopa. Got it, Dylan, wait. She's coming straight for me.
Rayquaza's confident voice cracked as a flash of green light streaked toward them.
It knew that glow. Dragon Ascent. Eternatus, Max Cannon. Dylan commanded as he patted Reshirem's side. Reshiram lifted off to retreat, but Rayquaza's mom was fast.
Eternatus opened its massive claw and fired a huge crimson blast toward the Dragon Ascent. But a golden ring appeared mid-air.
Swoosh. The beam vanished into it. TCH. Dylan's brows furrowed. Hoopa's rings could absorb energy attacks. Every one of them. Rayquaza. Get up there. What? Alright, I'm going.
Rayquaza gritted its teeth and flew up, body glowing with green light as it used its own dragon ascent.
Mom, forgive me. This isn't personal. Boom. The two green beams collided. But in an instant, Rayquaza's glow shattered. Shiny Rayquaza's attack cut straight through, blasting Rayquaza mid-air. Shiny Rayquaza turned, red eyes glowing coldly as it looked down at the falling Rayquaza. Yep. Rayquaza got one shot. Total crash landing.
That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.